Let's see. Refresh. Okay. Should be live. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I'm worried the sun's going to be a problem today. We've got a lot to cover once again. I mean, just seemingly so much. Every day at this point. Excuse me. So let's just jump right into it. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Got more of an outline today than anything else. It's just everything's been going on. All right, I think we're set up. Switch over. Oh. Chair's acting up, squeaking and stuff. So yeah. Today is Monday, February 23rd, 2026. This is episode number 60 of Addressing the Issues. Is this thing on? Looks like it. So there's been a blizzard across the Northeast in recent days. I believe it was yesterday and now today. Caused the shutdown of New York City last night. The stay-at-home order was issued from 9 until 12 today. It doesn't look like socialism is working too well in snow removal. But, you know, what is to be expected when you're asking the community to shovel snow for free? Most developed cities actually pay people to do this. But, you know, New York City's working under a different model at a huge deficit right now. So, they'll have snow, and they'll have, you know, the dog excrement afterwards to prove it, just like last time. I mean, that's what you get in a failed state, the failed state of New York City. But there's also been a state of emergency and blizzard warnings for numerous areas across the Northeast, including the whole state of New Jersey, claiming that in the area, this is the biggest snow in about 50 years, which I find, you know, hard to believe, but, you know, this is what global warming is, I guess, more snow. Snow totals have reached up to 3 feet in places already. This is just, you know, with it snowing for less than 48 hours. So, I mean, I guess good luck. We'll see how the power outages and power restoration goes. I'm sure there's plenty of areas. Let's see, actually. We can look this up using modern technology. Hold on. Let's see. There it is. Oh, I closed something I shouldn't have. Down detect. Is that it? Down detectors. Power outage map. Let's see. Yeah, well, we have 500,000, over 500,000 people already without power. That does include 20,000 in California without power. I don't understand why they don't have power, but that's another failed state, isn't it? No, there's 283,000 currently without power in Massachusetts. One of the hardest areas hit, including Rhode Island, New Jersey, New York. Apparently Connecticut's doing well. Maryland has even been hit. Places. Let's see if it comes back up. Let's see. Okay, it looks like we're back up. I was just saying Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, all reporting loss of power. So, yeah, it's apparently pretty good storm, blizzard conditions. roaring winds, tremendous amount of snowfall. Let's see, is Rumble not fixing? Okay, Rumble's fixed, I do believe. But yeah, so we'll move on from that. I'm sure more people lose power. And I'm sure, it'll take New York City the longest to recover just because of the nature of the regime that's there. I'll leave that as all for New York City. There's been, actually, we'll go into it real quick because we're already behind on that. There's been lots of, people taking issue to the shutting down of Times Square recently for the Ramadan prayer. People find it repulsive that New York City shut down its Center for Ramadan Prayer. There was also another religion that shut down the entirety of New York City, which hasn't received, or at least all of Times Square, for a different celebration where they were chanting for the second coming of Christ, or the original Christ in their opinion. But they also shut down Times Square for that. So I don't understand why there's only backlash for the Ramadan prayer. I don't, think they should have shut down the city, at least Times Square, for either of the above. Unless you're willing to, put up a nativity scene this Christmas in Times Square. I mean, maybe that's what's going to happen next. We'll have Easter celebrations and a Christmas celebration with a nativity scene in Times Square. How likely do you guys think that is to happen? I'll tell you right now, I see it as about a 0% chance. But that's what would, be fair in this situation. You can't just represent two religions and not let them all shut down Times Square, New York City. But that's my comment on that. I don't see how you can outrage for one religion if you're not going to be outraged over them all. Or, if you're going to allow this for multiple religions, you should just include them all. Maybe we can have a Hindu festival in Times Square next. Maybe a nativity scene. I think that would be what would be reasonable. But we'll move on from that. I didn't intend to talk about that, but it kind of popped into my head. I don't understand all the backlash for one but not the other. We'll move on. So big story is the Olympics wrapped up yesterday. The U.S. was second in both gold medals and total medals behind, as you could probably assume, Norway. They are very, very good at winter sports, I guess because they likely have one season, which is winter. Move some things around here. Uh-oh. Where'd that go? Here it is. That's not what I wanted. I wish I set this up a little bit better today, but it is what it is. There's just so much to cover. I tried to set it up in a different way than I normally would, and I am, facing the consequences for doing so. Okay, I think this should work. I'll pop this up in the full screen. So, the U.S. hockey sweeped both men's and women's. It was great to see. I saw videos of even youth hockey games in the U.S. being stopped just so the kids could celebrate chanting USA up and down the ice. It was great to see. Truly was. It was a moment of unity in this nation, which we so direly needed. So direly, even if it was brief, fleeting, just a couple hours on a Sunday morning. I know a different way of achieving unity in the nation on a Sunday morning, but we won't get into that right now. It was great to see this moment that hopefully will bring us all together, and I guess such challenging times for Americans to be united on anything whatsoever, which is, terrible in general. Go USA. Absolutely go USA. But, we conquered the Canadians. Conquered the Canadians. Beat them in both women's and men's hockey in the gold medal games. Both in overtime, actually. There was an awesome post-game interview with Jack Hughes of the U.S., where he was excited he won. He put blood, sweat, and tears into it for our country. Lost at least one tooth in the game, comes back, scores the game-winning goal. But in his post-game interview, he says, "This is all about our country right now. I love the USA. I love my teammates. It's unbelievable. The USA Hockey Brotherhood is so strong. I'm so proud to be an American today." That's what it's all about. There were other athletes, that were successful, that were patriotic. And, the ones that weren't patriotic, I don't think I ever heard of again after they had their America bashing moment in the, entry interviews. And said, "Oh, there's nothing to be proud about of the U.S." I never heard of those people again. They weren't successful. I think, when you do have a little bit of pride about yourself, you tend to be more successful in the biggest stage representing your country. This is also Alyssa Liu, the figure skater. She had a patriotic gleam to her throughout the Olympics. She's got an interesting family background. Her father escaped China as a political refugee, I believe during the Tiananmen Square crisis. But he came to America as a political refugee and raised his children, particularly his daughter Alyssa, to be a patriot. She was gleaming with American pride after her gold medal, draped herself in the flag, just like U.S. hockey did after their victory. It's what it's all about. You don't go there to bash your country. You go there to represent it, and that's what these people were doing. Trump called those people lovers because they are. They are. They love America. They love themselves. They're not afraid of who they are. They're Americans. I mean, at least in my opinion, they came here by legal means. They're Americans. They represent their country on the world's biggest stage. Proud of it. They're Americans. I mean, it's as simple as that. But what you shouldn't be doing is what the Huffington Post, or the Huff Post, was tweeting, posting articles. It says, if you're waving the American flag or chanting USA turns you off right now, you're not alone. A Baltimore-based, let me see, I can't see what's going on up here really. A Baltimore-based, no, okay, that's fine. Everything's going bad right now, guys. Everything is going bad. Okay. Baltimore-based seafood company. Let me see if I can find it again, because I accidentally just closed the whole tab with everything. This sun is awful. I need them to change the time. Let's see if I can find it. It was Jimmy's Seafood Company out of Baltimore, Maryland, told the HuffPost in response to that to go F themselves. Actually typed it out. Company page typed it out. Said, go F yourselves. Received over 200,000 likes on X so far. People have claimed that they're booking trips just because of the post. Patriotism sells, guys. You don't have to hate yourself to make money. You can be proud of who you are, and people book trips across the country to go to your seafood restaurant. I don't think anybody was planning on just going to Baltimore for a seafood trip, but, you know, you post something good on X, something patriotic, and people have determined that they'll book a flight to support you. So, I mean, it's poetic in a way. The media teaches you to dislike your country, yet when you post something patriotic like that, you make money. It's kind of awesome. I'm glad Jimmy's Famous Seafood did this. Let me see if I can figure out a way to bring back all of those tabs. Maybe I can't. Okay. But there was another side of the USA celebrations that people are talking about, which was Kash Patel in the locker room. I don't know why he was in the locker room. I guess they invited him in, hopefully. Hope he didn't just interject in the greatest moment of all these athletes' lives. There's a video of him visibly drunk, slinging beer, banging tables, just acting a little bit out of professional he did not seem professional when he was doing this. He seemed a little faded, as the kids would call it. But I do believe he was the one on the phone with President Trump as he invited both the men's and women's teams to the White House. So, you know, maybe that's why he was there. But he was there for a good while, slinging beers, acting drunk. I guess he is of drinking age, but if you're working on a professional diplomatic capacity, as he was claimed to, I would hope you're not intoxicated, because you are flying on the taxpayer's dime using the FBI jet. I hope he's not drunk going into these meetings, such as memorandums of understanding signings, joint meetings with Italian law enforcement, a security briefing. This is the official capacity he was there for, yet he's seen quite often at these hockey games. I don't know who's paying for this. I hope it's not the taxpayer, because that just, I mean, it's not what we pay for. We pay for him to get work done. We don't pay for him to party. And that seems to be what the FBI jet has been used for, at least a little bit too much. Lots of people have commented on that before. But they also cited, my goodness, this is so hard to see. They also cited that this was a misuse of official position. People have been arguing that under the standards of ethical conduct for employees of the executive branch, that he was misusing his position to gain access to sports teams. But his PR team has been working overtime in recent days. I had this up, but of course, when I pressed the close all tabs button, I lost it. I'll try not to do that again. The glare is awful right now. I might have to start just shutting the window until the time changes back. Wow, there's a large plane flying overhead right now. Do you guys hear that? It's shaking everything in my apartment. What was the post by? Here it is. Kash Patel posts a screenshot of an email, and he claims that any personal portion would be reimbursed, but I'm only tracking the official meetings. It's not accurate to say he's flying on government funds for a personal trip. I'd also note this, like all trips, was planned months in advance. So apparently this was planned months in advance. I guess he knew that the U.S. would be in the gold medal game months in advance, and that he'd be slinging beers months in advance, on a stream months in advance. See, I think it's a little unprofessional. I don't think anybody's wrong in arguing that. Especially, when there's so much else that he should be doing. You've got the Nancy Guthrie case that he's pledged all of his time to. Obviously not all of it. At the same time frame, you have 21-year-olds breaking into Mar-a-Lago with a shotgun and a gas can, which we'll get into later. And you still got dozens of unindicted co-conspirators who sexually assaulted and possibly killed children in the Epstein files, which he hasn't gotten around to. But apparently he was just there for meetings, I guess, and to hang out and watch hockey. I mean, if he was honest with us and he didn't have a pattern of actions like these, I think it would be a lot easier to swallow this pill. But given his recent actions using the FBI jet and FBI resources on his girlfriend, not even married, by the way, just a girlfriend that he flies around, tells people to go pick up from bars. If he didn't have a pattern of doing this over and over again, it would be a lot easier to accept. But, unfortunately, he's built a reputation for himself. And with this reputation, it makes it really hard to believe that, this was just all some coincidence. He's in there partying during the gold medal game. Or after the gold medal game. I guess he was partying during it, because when he showed up, he was a little under the influence, it seemed. I don't think he was able to drive anywhere, we'll just say that. But the U.S. hockey team landed in Miami earlier today, where it will be receiving a flight to the State of the Union address on board a military aircraft. I guess the president has these permissions to do this, but President Trump said he'd get them there. Whether passenger planes were able to land in Washington or not, he was going to send his own and ensure that they got there. I'm not saying we should punish the hockey team because they don't have patterns like this. They just did this once, won a gold against Canada. It's not a pattern. Last gold in hockey was, I do believe, 1980, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe sooner. It's been a long time. There's no pattern of this. This is our third gold medal in men's hockey. But they landed in Miami today. They actually received a water hose welcome, which is typically reserved for an airline's first flight into a airport. They received a hero's welcome at the airport, so that's awesome for them. And they'll be flying up to the State of the Union. The women's team has also been invited. I don't know if they'll show up. They probably have a little bit of differing opinions on President Trump, but the hockey team seemed excited to receive the invitation and talk to the president. So, we'll move on. We'll stop bashing Kash for a few minutes. I should make more patriotic posts, probably. I'd love to. This issue is I never really post. I need to post more. So the Iran situation continues to unfold. Some argue that it's a rather shitty situation. This is due to the problems with sewage on the USS Gerald R. Ford. There are currently reports of 45-minute lines to use the bathroom, as a majority of the toilets are reportedly in disrepair on the ship due to the vacuum system which the ship uses. There's also been reports of leaking sewage in the bathrooms. I can't verify these, but there are reports of it. That's why it's a shitty situation. It's probably not good for morale. They had their steak and lobster over the weekend. At least one group of the military did. That's typically one of the last meals you receive before kinetic warfare. Maybe that was, trying to push the brinksmanship. It's common knowledge that steak and lobster is the last meal. I'd hate to know what happens after you have a big meal like that and there's a 45-minute line for the bathroom. But, I guess we've got to get that cleaned up. I mean, it's a shitty situation. Oh no, what happened? Did I just close that? Oh no. Today is going so bad. New window. RUMBLE Studio. Am I still live? I hope so. Okay, it looks like it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we might have to start closing the blinds until the time changes because this is atrocious. There's also been text messages to citizens in Iran. Residents have received anonymous text messages that read, "The President of the United States is a man of action. Wait and see." These are reported to be anonymous text messages from an unknown sender. But it does seem to be a little bit of a threat. Maybe that's the U.S. doing that. Maybe it's somebody else doing that. Maybe it's even the regime trying to put fear into their people, get them to rally around the Ayatollah. I doubt that. I don't think that's a likely proposition. But they've been reported to be sent to just Iranian civilians. This is with reports that the U.S. could take action as soon as today or tomorrow in Iran. I guess unverified for today. I think it is already past 12 in Iran. It would be nighttime there right now. So we'll see. In related news, Steve Witkoff, the special envoy, has claimed that Iran could be a week away from a nuclear bomb. This reminds me of Benjamin Netanyahu addressing Congress in the early 2000s with a bomb diagram that was filled up 90% of the way to the 90% mark. And it says that they are 90% there on production of nuclear weapons. But in another related part of this, claim that Iran could be a week away from a nuclear bomb, you've got to ask yourself, does this mean that, Operation Midnight Hammer wasn't successful? Were they not destroyed? I thought we were told that the nuclear weapons facilities and production was fully destroyed during the operation. Yet now there could be a week away from production of a nuclear weapon. It's strange to me that they're always so close. They've been so close for I mean, my entire lifetime, if not longer than I've been alive, they've been close to a nuclear weapon, yet they've never made one. I mean, maybe they have the patience of, I don't even know what, or maybe they have it, maybe they don't, they're not even close. But it's just, a strange difference than we've been told less than a year ago, that the facilities were completely destroyed and now they're a week away, possibly. I don't know. It's a little strange. It's a little strange. And that's where we are with the Iran situation. I guess in coming days, we'll have more and more news on this, what's going on. I guess we'll know entirely once we strike or not. I wish I could. Let me see. Maybe if I do this. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, in regards to this situation, I almost forgot, the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon has evacuated its staff. There are claims that Hezbollah could be involved if the U.S. were to strike Iran along with the Houthis. So that is the current situation. Mostly, I'm going to see if there was anything else that I missed. A week away. All this is about the next topic. We'll shortly jump into the Mexico situation and the possible U.S. involvement in that. Yeah, 1 week away from nuclear bomb making material. I guess, even furthermore, there are more and more flights into the Middle East. Just all the time at this point. More fighter jets. There's a report that F-22 Raptors have been flown in to the region. It takes 25 to 30 hours of maintenance for every flight hour, reportedly, of one of these aircraft. Because somebody the other day asked, well, maybe it's a bluff. It's a really expensive bluff that we're trying to pull off here in a really, really broke country. We'll move into the Mexico situation. So 25 Mexican troops have been deceased after the killing of El Mencho, the leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. It led to roads being blocked across the country, airports being closed, checkpoints, not just military checkpoints, but cartel checkpoints, cartels blocking the roads, lighting fires to a Costco. But it seems to have set off some really angry people. An initial report says that after the U.S. eliminated a top cartel leader in Mexico, the Jalisco New Generation cartel retaliated by storming the Guadalajara airport with armed gunmen and are now taking Americans hostage. The Embassy of Mexico in the U.S. responded that it was exclusively planned and executed by Mexican special forces, and it was taken out within the framework of bilateral cooperation with U.S. authorities providing complementary intelligence. and that Mexican National Guard and Army troops are currently reinforcing security in Jalisco and neighboring states to maintain order. Well, the country lost, all order over the weekend. Cars were exploding, buildings are being burned, pharmacies, Costco's, attacks on the airport. You've got tourists held up in resorts. I would say, there's wouldn't be bad to be held up in a resort, but, given the nature of this, it looks like almost like a civil war. What's interesting, is that the president has done everything but taken steps against the cartels. And it's starting to look like we know the reason for this. Anytime that there's action taken against the cartels, whether that be from a local level or a national level, the officials pay the price. So it seems like we're starting to see who's actually running Mexico. And it's not the president. It's not the government. It's these cartels that are, armed like you wouldn't believe it, mostly with U.S. weapons. This is a result of the Fast and Furious operation. I believe that ended in 2017. That the U.S. was trafficking weapons into Mexico, and they've ended up in the hands of cartel members, drug dealers. And now that just one leader has been killed, the country's in flames, roads are being blocked, international visitors are being held against their will, flights aren't leaving to go home, people are just stuck there. Absolutely horrifying scenes, and this is, just south of our border. It is, it could have an effect on us, especially if it is revealed that the U.S. had any role in it, given the amount of cartel members in the United States. We could actually see repercussions for this. I don't want to. I don't think anybody wants to. That this is what's been allowed to develop in Mexico. It is a cartel narco-terror state. That's just unobjectionable given the results of the removal of one cartel leader. Just one, El Mencho. But he's quickly been replaced by the new leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartel called El Yogurt. El Yogurt. That's reportedly who's now in charge. El Yogurt. What a name. Unfortunately, Marco Rubio could not be installed to be the next leader for this. I think we would have a much better result in the war on drugs, I guess, as you could call it. We could install an insider, Marco Rubio, and he could bring them down from the inside out. But yeah, that's the situation in Mexico. The U.S. was involved intelligence-wise. Probably not in troops, but that is, unconfirmed, and I doubt it would be confirmed, just given what the repercussions of doing so would be. That there's obviously a new power vacuum in Mexico with the loss of a cartel leader of such nature. It is a leader, basically like the governor of his territory, with probably more power than the president, at least demonstrably more power when they assassinate political candidates, mayors, congressional candidates, people in Congress. I mean, I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe it was maybe 7 presidents, at least potential presidents, that have been killed in Mexico by cartel violence. Yogurt, as in the creamy, protein-rich treat, which is delicious when mixed with fruit and sweeteners. Don't mix it with sweeteners. The next guy is going to be really upset with that. But yes, El Yogurt, as in the creamy, protein-rich treat. Yes, he is named after yogurt. I mean, an absolutely abysmal name. He could have named himself anything. I mean, El Chapo was much better. I'm going to be honest. Just El Chapo sounded much better than El Yogurt, but we've got El Yogurt now. I had more respect for El Chapo just strictly based off his name. We'll move on. There was an executive order signed today to boost U.S. phosphorus and glyphosate production. This is, just a couple of days after the Roundup settlement. Roundup causing cancer paid out $7.25 billion. But, the U.S. has now determined that it is in our best interest to boost phosphorus and glyphosate production. Phosphorus, which tears up the Florida Everglades more than you'd ever believe. Just taking layers and layers of off the top of the earth to find this phosphorus. The runoff of this creates pollution, such as these red algae blooms that have been rampant in the state in recent years, causing burning in the eyes, burning of skin. But this is, what you get when you make phosphate, as it is a chemical, it is a fertilizer. I mean, I wouldn't recommend rubbing fertilizer on yourself. I don't think anybody would. But it's a chemical, along with, glyphosate, which is used in desiccation of only 3% of U.S. wheat crops. It is used to help with maintaining their structure, I guess, after they have been harvested. I don't understand why Robert F. Kennedy, who seems to be on board with this because it's apparently going to be a short-term fix as opposed to getting these products from... Did I freeze again? Awesome. I hope this is going to work until the end. I think we're back, at least close to it. Recovering. Is it up? Looks like it's up. Maybe. Let's see. Okay, there we go. But no, these are toxic chemicals, guys. Glyphosate and phosphorus. And we're, using them in our food supply, meaning it goes into our body at some point or another. Just chemicals, cancer-causing chemicals. And apparently for the time being, Health and Human Services is okay with it. I'm not. I think this is disgusting. RFK's statement on this says that the U.S. represents 4% of the world's population, yet we use roughly 25% of these pesticides. That's a lot. And all these end up, at some point or another, being consumed by humans, including the cancer-causing pesticides and Roundup. But no, it focuses basically on returning chemical production back to the United States, that the U.S. uses adversarial nations for these products. The goal is to continue to have a stable food supply while we switch to more regenerative agriculture, changing farming systems. But in the short term, we've decided that it's in our best interest to use these chemicals in our food supply. I don't think it's a good idea, especially given that they do cause cancer. They're proven to cause cancer. Yet it's, just a short-term fix with a long-term problem. I think we should probably, focus more on how to fix this in the long term than to just change the country of origin on the problem. I mean, yes, it's good that we're not buying these from China anymore. It's also bad that we're still using them. Glyphosate, here it is used just before harvest of wheat to help dry the crop. But weed killer is applied to this wheat that's, used for human consumption. Other countries, namely the European Union, it's not a country, it's a collection of countries, has completely banned use of glyphosate. Apparently, it's only used in the production of 3% of U.S. wheat crops. 3% is 3% too many, in my opinion, if we know that it causes cancer. It's not making America healthy, allowing, it's just a little bit of cancer. It's not too bad. I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think we need to completely overhaul this practice. If it is causing cancer, it's going to cause more long-term problems with health care, price of health care. But there was, like I said, an executive order signed today boosting phosphorus and glyphosate production in the U.S. That can't go bad. It can't go bad at all. There's no way that destroying the Everglades and creating chemicals in factories can go bad. It's never led to anything bad before, right, guys? Speaking of agriculture, Florida's been going crazy with agricultural gag laws. I don't know if any of them have been signed. I might be getting a visit from the speech police over talking bad about agriculture, saying that some of the practices are harmful. Because they don't want you talking about it. They don't want you to be aware that these processes have real terrible effects on humans, such as cancer. We'll go to the last story of the day. The second arrest of a person mentioned in the Epstein files has happened. And it looks like John Curacao was right. It wasn't in the U.S. It was once again in the U.K. Peter Mandelson was arrested and taken out of his house today. He was mentioned for having relations with Epstein. This is, just days after Prince Andrew's arrest. It's kind of crazy that we can't get any of this done. We're getting outdone by the Brits. It's never happened before. We beat them back to back in wars, and now we're getting outdone by them, and arresting child predators is a sad situation. Especially when leader of the FBI is on live streams, slamming beers, avoiding his job. But yeah, there's been 2 arrests now, none of which in the U.S. I can't wait until, if we ever get our first arrest in the U.S., these people deserve to be behind bars and deserve to be behind bars for a long time. Let's see if we can find anything before we sign off for today. Everything causes cancer, everything including the sun. Pick your poison. I don't think the sun is actually as bad as everybody's made it out to be. I think, there are things that you do besides being in the sun that are compounded by being in the sun. You get a little bit of chemical in you, changes your DNA, mutates it just a little bit. Now you have cancer. Cancer is fed and grows. Bodies don't know exactly how to attack it. I think the sun can compound it. I don't think, it is the main thing. There wasn't like this huge rise in skin cancer and let's just go back to 0 AD. There wasn't this huge issue with skin cancer. They also weren't eating foods riddled with pesticides. And maybe they were. Maybe everybody just had skin cancer and could live through it. I don't think that I think this is more of a modern problem. I don't think it's just one thing, aka the sun, that does it. I think it's a combination of poor choices. Eating food that's able to mutate genes, destroy the human genome. I think that is going to be your main cause. They didn't have sunscreen until recently. We also didn't have such a problem with cancer, apparently, until recently. Or maybe it just went undiagnosed. But I think that there's a little bit more to it than, something as simple as the sun. Everything on Earth lives under the sun. That's how it survives. I don't think the sun's to blame. I think poor choices by people are to blame. Eating foods with cancer-causing chemicals. Even applying cancer-causing chemicals to yourself. Your skin is your biggest organ. And I think we do a lot to ourselves. Maybe we're not knowledgeable about what it is at the time. But we do these things and they end up damaging us. It could be as simple as applying makeup and clogging pores. And then you apply more makeup to cover up the damage you've done, and then over and over and over again, and then it's not a good cycle. It's not a healthy cycle. You eat food that gives you cancer, but you just continue to eat this stuff. You never make any changes to make a difference. That's my opinion on it. I think it's more than just the sun. I think we survived under the sun for a really long time and never had such issues with cancer as we do in the present day. Let's see. I think I've covered everything that really needs to be covered today. So make sure you guys are dropping a like, following on Kick, following on Rumble, subscribing on YouTube. If you'd like to subscribe on YouTube or subscribe on Rumble, I'd much appreciate it. I appreciate you guys mostly for just sticking around today. Once again, lots to cover. I had lots of other things I needed to do today as well. I hope I did a good enough job. I really do. There's just, more and more stuff every single day. It's like flooding the zone, as they call it. That's what it seems to be in recent days. Flooding the zone, so you're so distracted by the time the Iran crisis hits that you don't feel anything. It's like, I felt like this for the last couple of days. It's no big deal. It's just another thing. It's going to be a big deal, guys. That's why I'm so focused on it, because it's going to be a big deal. It's going to raise the cost of living, and that's not even the worst part. There's going to be a major loss of life, more than likely, especially if they start attacking U.S. ships with hypersonic missiles. And even, best case scenario, it goes really well, and no soldiers are killed, and they go eliminate all of Iran's military. We'll have a whole generation of soldiers coming back. I'll say, I have PTSD. I don't feel good with what I did. It was like shooting fish in a barrel. They're not gonna cope well with that. There's no good coping with war. Make sure you guys are liking. By the way, happy 60th episode. This is your Diamond Jubilee episode. Thank you. Happy Jubilee, everyone. Not familiar with that. Let's see. Jubilee. 60 diamond. 70 is platinum. Why didn't you say happy gold jubilee episode for 50? Come on. It is also a significant Catholic holy year. I am not Catholic. I am Protestant. Monarchal jubilees. Biblical Jewish tradition, it occurs every 50 years. Huh. It says the next ordinary jubilee is in 2025. I think Google missed the mark on that. They're living in the past. Now, I think that's all we have for today, so make sure you guys are dropping a like, subscribing, following. I'll be back tomorrow, I do believe, at 4:45, hopefully on time. I've been so bad at being on time recently. There's also been way too much of stuff to get together, honestly. Yeah, I hope I got us all caught up from the weekend. Another very eventful weekend. Another very eventful day in general. So I think we've got through at least the majority of everything that matters today. I'm looking through to see if there's anything else that seems significant. I'm not finding much. So I guess we'll go ahead and sign off here. I'll do one more check on this news aggregate and see if they've got anything. Most of the talk has been about the Mexico situation. obviously the Epstein files, which are a ongoing saga. There's one other news story I saw today. Let me see. Oh, here it is. It says Israel informs the Trump admin that it will not provide a single penny to Trump's Board of Peace. This is the Board of Peace that is meant to rebuild Gaza. That's kind of interesting to me. Everybody else is providing in this Board of Peace. Yet, some people are allowed to join and not provide any monetary value. I hope they're not planning on sending their troops. I think that'll be a very bad idea. I don't think the Palestinians are going to appreciate that. I truly don't. Especially given that they've been at war. If the U.S. goes to war with Mexico, I don't think Mexico would want U.S. troops holding the peace and the ceasefire. That's just my opinion. I think that would be a silly proposition, but I also don't understand why you would join the Board of Peace if you're not going to provide anything. Just interesting stuff all around in the Middle East. It just seems to get crazier and crazier by the day. We'll sign off here. See you tomorrow at 4:45 Eastern Time. The State of the Union's tomorrow night. Keep an eye out for that. We already got our preemptive State of the Union. What was that? December. And we'll get the official one that I guess is planned this or tomorrow night. I'm going to go ahead and guess the ending will be the State of the Union is strong. It's good to hear. I hope it's true. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Oh, to my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you get home safe as well. That's what I was missing. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow.